Part 158. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1576. Typing Heavenly Kingdom 10,000 rewards plus 1 update. On the way back, Bernard slept almost the whole way. The body temperature fluctuated up and down. When it was high, it was almost hot to the touch. Greet suspected that it might have reached 60 or 70 degrees. If it weren't for Jin Huanglong's vow, he inherited the blood of the red dragon. It's normal to be a little taller, and Bernard's vital signs seemed to be stable. Greet would have made a bathtub of ice-water mixture and frozen the barbarian in it. Already. When it's low, it's so low that it feels like your hands are frozen and you don't have any vitality at all. Patients who were dragged from the snow and suffered from severe hypothermia or hypothermic circulatory arrest were not as cold to the touch. Greet was forced to put on ECG monitoring and EEG, and stayed by Bernard's side without blinking an eye. Although Bernard's life energy has always been very strong during the mental induction, beating vigorously like a ball of flames, but who said that if the life energy is strong, the spirit and soul are equally strong? What if I get burned out? What if it burns into a vegetative state? What if the body is healthy but the mental energy is washed away? Be sure to pay attention. You must pay close attention. If things change, you must immediately intervene in the rescue. Even if all the power Bernard has absorbed before is washed away, the original chromosomes will be copied back again. However, even this kind of waiting cannot last long. On the third day, crimson viscous liquid kept oozing out of Bernard's body and the big bone rod he held tightly in his hand. Before Greet could think of a way to treat him, there was more and more liquid. Looking at the volume alone, it seemed to have exceeded the total blood volume of the barbarian. Soon, the liquid formed a hard shell, and even the barbarian's sticks with bones were firmly sealed inside. The seal was so strong that Gretel couldn't even penetrate it even if he tried to use his spiritual power. When I tried to put more force, the hard shell made a crackling sound and was about to burst open. Don't touch it with its wings spread flat. Jin Huanglong was breaking through the turbulence and flying out of the dragon tomb. Suddenly he turned his head and said, "He has reached the most critical moment. If you pass this level, you can advance. If you can't pass it, you will disappear. In this process, the most important thing is not to be disturbed by external forces. As long as you are disturbed, you will die immediately." Greet retracted his mental strength in frustration, hugged his knees on the dragon's back, and sat in a ball. The golden glory dragon Targaryen stared at him softly for a moment, turned back, and continued to fly forward and upward, beyond the dragon tomb. Until everyone's whole body was shaken, the heavy pressure on their bodies had completely disappeared. Looking around, they saw thick lead clouds and thousands of miles of ice, already outside the dragon tomb. Golden Glory Dragon Targaryen said calmly, "You are still young and have not experienced much, especially not many life, separation, and death. When you reach legend, you will slowly understand that birth, old age, illness, and death are common sense in the world, and even if you are a legend, you are no exception." He turned back and glanced at the dragon tomb, not only at the dragon tomb, but also at the endless dragon remains in the dragon tomb. Even if it's a legend, even if it's a second-level legendary, or a third-level legendary, in the end, there will always be a day. Gretel lowered his head, then turned to look at the blood cocoon wrapping Bernard, silently. He understood the truth. As a doctor in his previous life, he had seen countless joys and sorrows, life and death. Even his own predecessor had experienced the irreversible regret of having a son who wanted to support him but refused to take care of him. However, perhaps because of the regrets in his previous life, he always hopes to make up for it as much as possible after coming to this world. "I always hope that I can hold everything in my hand firmly, and I always hope that the people around me can accompany him a little longer." "Oh, kid." Jin Huanglong laughed softly, turned his head, and continued to fly forward. Some things cannot be taught by teaching. You can only understand them by experiencing them yourself. However, this child has done so many things for the Dragon Clan. I hope that he will go as smoothly as possible. I hope that the time for him to say goodbye to the people around him forever will come later, and then later. He took 9 people, a tree, and a huge blood cocoon and flew for 3 days and 3 nights before returning to Gretel's mage tower. As soon as he landed on the ground, Jin Huanglong shook his body, shook everyone down together with the small airship, and flew away into the sky. The first thing Gretel did when he landed was to grab the oak staff and poke it on the ground. Quick! Move Bernard up! Move to the roof! Be careful, don't shake, don't collide, don't break anything. Tell everyone to get out of the way. The oak staff immediately stretched out 7 or 8 roots, pressing down on the ground in all directions. Then, all 16 strong branches stretched out, and the thick branches branched into thin branches, the thin branches branched into young branches, and the young branches branched into young leaves. Wrap the blood cocoon tightly. Young leaves, twigs, and twigs are layered layer by layer, and they are laid out extremely well. Even if there is a dragon dancing on the ground next to him, and the rumble makes the ground crack, it is guaranteed that the blood cocoon will not be shaken. Then, the oak staff used the crown to lift the blood cocoon, stepped away from the tree roots, and strode inside. Walking into the mage tower, walking into the elevator, being lifted up slowly by the elevator, straight to the top floor. Greet followed closely. Just at the moment when the elevator was about to close, he pointed at the door and shouted, "You guys should do what you are doing. It's time to clean up. Don't wait for me." The magicians had been waiting for his words for a long time and responded immediately. Those who moved goods, those who liberated skeletons, and those who threw monsters. They were all busy. The 2 necromancers each carried 2 tightly sealed boxes, filled with soul stones, and plunged into the basement of the mage tower, never to come out again. Dragon soul! Dragon soul! Such a rare dragon soul, even a residual soul or a broken soul, is not so easy to obtain. Be sure to store them well and do more experiments with them. Even if you can't do destructive experiments, you must first observe, use all means to observe, and record all the data that can be recorded. Definitely don't rush into stuffing them into dragon eggs. No way. What? Is this the original experimental plan that was reported to the Plague Lord and the Dragon Clan for approval? Then quickly refine the experimental plan. One step is divided into 10 sub-steps, which must include various observation methods for the dragon soul. After all, you have to complete the observations and make records before you can use them for experiments. There is no earliest observation record. What can be used to verify the experimental results between dragon soul and dragon soul? Hurry up! While the Lord of Plague is busy with other things and has no time to talk to everyone for the time being, everyone should work hard to make the plans that need to be done and submit the projects that need to be reported. Magicians from all departments were busy. Those who put things away, those who counted them counted, those who identified them identified, and those who entered them entered. Only Gretel followed Bernard's blood cocoon, never leaving, until he reached the top of the mage tower. Sarala had been waiting for him there for a long time. Upon seeing this, she rushed forward quickly, opened her hands, and held the blood cocoon weakly. "What's the matter? This is this, Bernard? Only Bernard didn't come out, and this is him? What's wrong with him? Don't panic, don't panic." Greet held her hand, patted it comfortingly, and told Bernard's experience. Sarala listened attentively, and a smile appeared on her face halfway through. "Well, then it's okay. It's not the Dragon Blood Warrior, no, Bernard should be the Dragon Brain Warrior this time, Dragon Brain Warrior. Don't worry, Bernard will definitely be able to get through it. Greet couldn't be as relieved as she was. But I couldn't be discouraged at this moment. I could only hold Sarah's palm, and the two of them leaned shoulder to shoulder and stared intently at the huge blood cocoon in front of them. Bernard's body has been transformed by the water from the well of eternity, and is filled with the vitality of the world tree. Although it is not legendary yet, it is still very strong and should be able to withstand. Mental power is his shortcoming, but for so many years, he has been practicing madness every day. After practicing, he recovers, and after recovering, he practices again, being able to recover from madness every time. His will must also be very strong. Strong. The biggest hurdle for a warrior to ascend to the legend is not having enough mental power, but the dragon brain should be very powerful in improving mental power. It's very strong, right? Also, a large amount of dragon brains and dragon souls poured into that big bone stick. I originally wanted to get him a dragon bone, but the result now is better, and he can use it more smoothly. The dragon soul and the ancient beast soul in the bone stick seem to be combined together. This is good for Bernard. His way of practice is to resonate with the beast soul and be guided by the beast soul. He will hit the legend, it's also more convenient. Besides, that big bone stick seems to be a little alive, the dragon soul will be very comfortable living in it. He rambled on, not knowing whether it was to tell Cyrilla what happened before, or to calm his nerves by talking. Cyrilla was held by his hand obediently at first, but soon she held it back and gently patted the back of his hand. Yes. Yes, Bernard worked very hard. It's definitely no problem. Speaking of which, how long will it take? How long has Bernard been like this? No one could answer her. Gretel didn't know the answer, and there were no other dragons around him who could provide experience. Cyrilla rolled her eyes and her stomach suddenly growled. Gretel, I'm hungry. I want to eat. Cyrilla shouted that she wanted to eat, so what else was there to say? Not wanting to let anyone else come in at this time, Gretel touched the space bag, took out a set of pots and pans, took out various spare foods, and began to wash, cut, cook, and bake. This is a big fish that Senior Targaryen caught in the sea outside the dragon tomb. He gave me a fish head and a piece of fish belly meat. The meat on the cheeks is the most delicious. I will cook it for you. These are the native creatures in the dragon tomb. There are snow chickens, wind sheep, and ice rabbits. I also caught a few foxes. I will use the fox tails to make a scarf for you later. This is. In order to fill Cyrilla's belly, Gretel also spent a lot of money. Various large pots, giant cauldrons, and grills that can roast whole cattle are all placed on the floor. Cyrilla held a chicken leg in her left hand and a piece of fish gill meat in her right hand. She suddenly pursed her lips and smiled, shouting loudly. Bernard! Get up! Eat something delicious! Click, 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 sound. The blood cocoon that had been silent for 3 to 5 days began to shake violently from the inside. Thanks at only the Golden House in Sichuan rewarded 100 starting coins. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 1577. Chapter 1572 Bernard, I have become bald and stronger. Click, click, click. Gretel stared at the blood cocoon in shock. There was no movement just now. After waiting for so many days, there was still no movement. However, after Cyrilla called out like this, there started to be movement. Bernard, I knew you were a foodie, but I didn't expect you to be such a foodie. Click, 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 click. The blood cocoon looks very thin, but it's actually quite hard, and it's a bit difficult to open it once or twice. Bernard was rushing around inside, and the blood cocoon was swinging back and forth with him. Like a thin-shelled egg, it looks fragile but never breaks. Gretel stood up in a hurry and walked around the blood cocoon, half a circle from left to right, and then half a circle from right to left. If the principle of the blood cocoon is similar to that of an eggshell, then the air inside it is limited. If it cannot come out, Bernard may be in danger. Smash it with your elbows. Hit it with your knees. He clenched his hands tightly, fearing that if he got excited, he would throw some spell directly, break the blood cocoon, and injure Bernard instead. Use your big stick to hit it. The big stick is also in there. There are weapons, why not use weapons? Sirara also stood up. Unlike Gretel, she did not yell for advice for Gretel. Instead, she giggled and waved the food in her hand. Bernard. This is a chicken leg. A specialty of snow chicken legs in the snow field. If you don't come out, I will eat it. Ah, ow, it's delicious. These are mutton skewers. Each piece is an inch square. The mutton skewers are skewered with green peppers, carrots and pineapples. They are fragrant, sweet, and sizzling with oil. They are also brushed with honey. This is a big pot of beef. A big pot. A pot that can't even be held with 2 arms. Bernard, if you don't come out, I will eat it. I'll eat it all. This is. The Silver Dragon girl's voice was clear and crisp, but had a different kind of penetrating power. It banged in the mage tower, hit the stone wall, and then bounced down and hit the blood cocoon. The blood cocoon shook even more violently, and not long after, a thin gap opened, then another, and then another. Starting from one point, the ends split, the middle splits, the ends split and then split. At first glance, it looked like a bolt of lightning crossing the sky. Well, should I say that he is worthy of being from the Thunderhorn? Although Bernard is a warrior, not a magician, he is my follower, so rounding up, he can be considered a person from the Thunderhorn. Bang! 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 In the blood cocoon, continuous crashing sounds came, some were light and some were heavy, some were sparse and some were dense. Gretel listened for a while and confirmed that Bernard's movements were very powerful. He punched, kicked, elbowed, and kneeled, and even the big bone should have been used. He breathed a sigh of relief. Not bad, the situation is pretty good. As long as you have the strength and can fight, you should be able to break out soon. He took a few steps back easily, scooped a bowl of beef from the pot, and ate it beautifully. Well, after worrying about Bernard for so long, I'm really hungry and need to have a good meal. The beef was stewed well. As expected, the power of the flame penetrated evenly and the beef brisket was stewed quickly and tenderly. Well, the seasoning is also good. Sprinkle a little more pepper to give it a fresh flavor. Bang! Bang! Bang 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 bang! Boom! Click! There was an unusual sound. Gretel bit into a piece of beef brisket and looked up, just in time to see the blood cocoon burst open, and a piece the size of half a palm flew out. Soon, a pair of faint eyes looked at him through the hole in the blood cocoon, mixed with the sound of increasingly heavy breathing. Ha, 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 ha. The blood cocoon was smashed open. Even if you only open a gap, it's still open. As long as it is opened, there will be air circulation and people will not be suffocated inside. To put it bluntly, even if Bernard is thirsty, hungry, or unable to fight inside, they can bring food and water inside to let him take a break and fight again later. It doesn't matter if you take a nap. Bernard. Bernard, can you hear me? Gretel held the bowl and came over. How is the situation now? Do you want to eat something and drink some water? Make the hole bigger and I will put food in for you. Huh, huh, hoo-ha. He was still panting in his blood cocoon. Just when Greet began to worry that Bernard would be burned out of his mind, or at least unable to speak, a loud roar suddenly sounded from the blood cocoon. Hey ha! Boom! Greet subconsciously put up a defensive shield. At the same moment, Cyrilla flew over, grabbed his belt, and moved sideways at high speed. Skimming the cauldron of beef. Pass by the grill where the whole lamb is roasting. Sweep past the oven where a whole chicken is roasting. Passing by the large basin with fish heads. Thick layers of ice rose from the ground, extending in the direction of her flight, turning into an ice wall blocking the food. Down to the floor, up to the ceiling. Just as he hid in the corner, the next moment, the entire blood cocoon burst into pieces, and pieces of dark red, almost black hard shells flew everywhere. Click, 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 the ice wall seemed to have been shot by thousands of crossbow arrows, embedded with countless tiny blood cocoon fragments. Cyrilla blocked Gretel from behind and breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the pot didn't fall over. If it's overturned, they won't be able to eat it, and Bernard won't be able to eat it either. That's too bad. As the blood cocoon exploded, a giant with flames all over his body strode out of the blood cocoon and hit the ice wall. Before Cyrilla shouted slow down, the ice wall had been smashed by the giant's two fists. The giant went straight to the beef pot on the opposite side, stretched out his big hand, grabbed a handful and stuffed it into his mouth. A handful. 2 handfuls. 3 handfuls. The giant opened his bow from left to right, grabbed 5 or 6 handfuls at once, and swallowed them straight down his neck without even chewing them. It seemed that he still felt that it was not enough. He picked up the beef pot about the same width as his own body with both hands, raised his head, and heard tons, 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 tons. After a pot of beef was cooked directly, he relaxed his shoulders and let out a long breath. Turning his head, he forced a smile to Gretel. "Boss, I'm sorry, I'm so hungry." Greet also breathed a sigh of relief. Bernard, who rushed out of the blood cocoon, had grown taller, if not 2.8 meters, at least 2.6 meters tall. On the exposed skin, dark red dragon scales were densely arranged, and the dragon scales were burning with flames, scorching the air and distorting it. Even the thick brown hair disappeared completely, replaced by dragon scales, thorns, and a pair of protrusions that resembled dragon horns. But no matter what, if you can speak and know people, it means you are still sane. Everything about his appearance is acceptable. From a barbarian perspective, he probably wouldn't be considered ugly, and maybe more girls would like him. The only problem is, Bernard, you have become bald now, so, have you become stronger? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1578. Chapter 1573 Gretel, I am a magician, I don't want to be a robot. Typing Heavenly Kingdom 10,000 rewards plus update 2. Have you become stronger? In response to the boss's question, Bernard clenched his fists and punched in the air. There was a loud bang, and the air wave swept out with flames, hitting the wall of the mage tower, causing the lines on the edge of the room to light up for an instant. Warning. Warning. Please do not engage in dangerous behavior in the center of the mage tower. Warning. Warning. Okay, Gretel shouted. Tallink quickly shut up, paused, and immediately lowered his voice by an octave. The danger has been eliminated, please do not engage in dangerous behavior again, otherwise the tower spirit will attack. No, not anymore. Bernard raised his hands and shook them vigorously. At this moment, the flames on his body gradually dimmed, as if he had taken them back. He smiled sheepishly at Greet and rubbed his belly with his hand. Boss, I'm still hungry. Then eat, Gretel waved his hand proudly. Now I looked at Bernard carefully and realized that although he was taller, he had obviously lost weight. The cheekbones are high and the cheeks are completely sunken, as if there are two big holes dug under the cheekbones. Before, the flames were burning and could not be seen, but now that the flames are extinguished, even if the face is densely covered with rows of dragon scales, it is shocking to see. The eye sockets were also deeply sunken, symmetrical with the cheeks on both sides. At a quick glance, I thought it was a skeleton from Black Crow Swamp standing here. Although the eyes are still blazing, to be honest, there are also two balls of fire burning in the skull's eye sockets. The brightness is not lower than his, and it cannot be distinguished by this. With his face so thin, his body becomes even more ugly. There are 24 ribs in the chest and 24 ribs in the back. Each one is bulged. If you pour some soapy water on it, it can be used as a washboard. The muscles on the arms and legs flew to nowhere, and the skin tightly wrapped the bones. If it weren't for the raised veins that can be seen underneath, it can basically be said that the skin has completely disappeared, leaving only the periosteum. Gretel sighed helplessly. Growing taller and stronger quickly, growing dragon scales, possessing flames, and so on, indeed comes with a price. At the very least, those proteins and biological substances cannot be fully supplemented by dragon brain marrow, and can only be extracted from the inside of the human body. No, if you keep pumping, your muscles will disappear. Even those firm 8-pack abs are gone. It's not that it became one piece, but it's gone. How to supplement protein? The only way is to eat it. Eat lots of food, eat lots of protein-rich foods. Greet raised his hand, and with two bang-bangs, a big blue-gray fish 3 meters long, as thick as a hug, with a spindle-shaped body, and a reindeer estimated to weigh 300 kilograms fell to the ground. At the same time, there were two bang-bangs on the opposite side. A 5-6 meter long, green-colored ghost-headed swordfish king, and a moray eel, which was longer than the ghost-headed swordfish and covered in mucus, fell to the ground side by side. Eat. Just eat. Sarala put one hand on her hips, raised the other hand, and waved vigorously. You can eat as much as you want. Greet, come over and help. Hey, here we come. Greet came flying over. While reuniting with Sarala, he has already released the dark gold skeletons, released the skeleton combination sent by the immortal, flew out of the hands of the mage, and called the tower spirit to mobilize invisible servants. Help. Speed helps. Wash it, rub it, remove the mucus, remove the scales, disembowel the body, peel the skin and cut the meat. The fire is raised, the pot is propped up, the seasonings are sprinkled, and the food is cooked. As for these ingredients, any one of them exceeds Bernard's weight. Bernard, just eat. Eat as much as you can, and don't worry if you can't eat. Anyway, there is Greet. Sarala confidently pointed at Greet, who was busy controlling a bunch of subordinates, and said. Anyway, he hasn't practiced transformation for a long time recently. As long as he turns into a silver dragon, he can eat any amount. Bernard had no time to speak. He held a roasted whole lamb in his hands and buried his head directly on the lamb, chewing hard. The roasted whole lamb is not small, so I should have grilled the outer layer first, then removed the outer layer of meat and eaten it, and then grilled the inner layer by layer. Bernard didn't care about this at all. He took several bites in succession, not stopping until he reached the inner layer of raw meat, tearing it apart even with blood and flesh. After a few more bites, there was a click and the big bone was broken directly. After chewing hard twice, he swallowed it directly. Hey, won't this cause diarrhea? Greet looked a little frightened and asked in a low voice. In fact, diarrhea is not a big deal. The most terrifying thing is that the bones are not completely chewed, and when swallowed, they pierce the esophagus and directly hit the aorta. But looking at Bernard taking one mouthful after another without any hindrance, there didn't seem to be any signs of getting stuck. "What are you thinking?" Cyrilla glared at him speechlessly. She came to Gretel's side, pointed at Bernard's head, and lowered her voice. "Look. Look into his mouth." "What's wrong with your mouth, ah?" Greet observed carefully and discovered that while Bernard was eating, flames were rising from his mouth, and he was rolling directly on the ingredients. Miraculously, the uncooked meat became cooked when it was rolled by the flames. The cooked meat was swept by the flames, but there was no sign of becoming charred at all. "No matter what, at least you won't lose protein." Gretel felt a little relieved now. Watching the barbarian chattering and swallowing, after thinking about it, he felt a little concerned about Ziran. The near-legendary warrior's physique is so powerful that even ordinary poisons can't put him down, let alone eating a snow sheep alive. There is no such thing as diarrhea. After finishing a roasted lamb, he picked up a basin with a diameter of more than 1 meter and drank the fish head and soup in one go. Immediately afterwards, while grabbing the mutton skewers and bringing them to his mouth, he quickly walked towards the oven. Roast chicken. Grilled snow chicken. The scent almost reached the roof, he couldn't help it anymore. After eating 30 or 40 kilograms of food in one breath, Gretel saw the barbarian's belly bulging a little, then flattening, bulging a little more, then flattening again. Except that the scales on the surface of the skin are a little more shiny, even the muscles on the body have not recovered. Greet was a little unsure again. He looked back at Cyrilla and saw Cyrilla smiling and nodding, looking very relieved. "Bernard looks like this. He has inherited the blood of the red dragon very well." "Well, don't worry. Dragons eat like this. They digest very quickly, especially when a large amount of supplements is needed. They eat several times their body weight at a time. Not a problem. Don't ask why it can be digested so quickly. Ask about magic. Ask about the power of extraordinary creatures. Fast digestion, fast absorption, fast conversion, fast into muscle. Eat, just eat." Cyrilla always has enough ingredients in her hand to feed an adult dragon dozens of times, and she is now confident. "If you don't believe me, I won't be able to feed you enough." Bernard ate so hard that he ate for a whole day and night. He ate at least 5 times his own body weight in food, all of which were high-level monsters above level 10. When he finally finished eating, the dents in his cheeks and eye sockets had healed, and half of the muscles on his body had returned. More importantly, traces of his 8-pack ABS were also showing. On the surface of the skin, the dragon scales glowed faintly with red light. The barbarian stroked his belly, let out a long belch, exhaled a stream of fragrant black smoke, and stretched with satisfaction. "Hiccup, boss, I'm basically full. I feel like I'm feeling the direction again. It's not like before where I couldn't see the road clearly and didn't know which direction to push." Greet smiled and nodded. After absorbing the brain of a legendary dragon, he should have some direction. He walked over quickly and stretched out his arms. Bernard bent down in cooperation and let the boss pat him on the shoulder. "Then do your best. I'm waiting for you to advance to legend." "Okay, boss." "No problem, boss. I'm going to take a nap, and when I wake up, I'll fight with Idion. Master the power of the legendary red dragon. Integrate the power of fire and the power of magic. Wave that big bone stick and listen to the dragon soul whisper in your ears. When your spirit can be integrated with the dragon soul, you can use the power of the dragon soul to glimpse the mysteries of ancient times and step into the legend." Greet himself also took a deep sleep. After waking up, feeling refreshed, I rushed to the Tower Spirit Center and started to deal with the backlog of official business. As soon as the light curtain opened, he screamed. "I don't want to be a batch process robot. 1 page. 1 page. Another page. There are 10 processes on 1 page, and the page number under the light curtain is number 13 or 4. In other words, there are at least 100, 30 or 40 processes that he needs to review. And it's not like you can just glance at it and let it go. For each process, you must carefully look at the purpose of the experiment, the experimental plan, and the experimental process. You must compare it with the previous experiments. You must also estimate the material inventory in the Mage Tower, whether there are enough experimental materials, and whether this experiment will anger the Dragon Clan. It takes him at least half an hour to complete each experiment. If it is more complicated, it will take him an hour or two to complete. Calculating that each process takes 1 hour on average, there are 130 or 40 processes, which means that he spends 8 hours a day on the batch process, and it will take about 17 days to complete the batch process. More than half a month has passed. If he still wants to have weekends off, it will be almost a month away. How long have we been going to Dragon Tomb? Less than a month. How did you create so many experiments in less than a month? Many of your experiments occur every 3 months or even every 6 months. Greet sighed and glanced at the first page of the screen. The Mage Tower has an established layout method for processes. Generally, the latest process is at the front and the older process at the back. Yes, you have to turn to the last page and look over slowly. Griddle opened the last page, calmed down, and planned to start reading from the last process. Before I clicked on it, the light curtain suddenly vibrated slightly, accompanied by the Tower Spirit's soft reminder. Master, Archmage Philby has sent a message. She has 2 processes in progress and has been working on them for half a month. Please give priority to your approval. Okay, bring out Senior Sister's process. Greet ordered with a sigh. He knew it would be like this. Things like process rely on urging, crazy urging, point-to-point, one-by-one supervision, and now, the Senior Sister is directly urging him. Talling responded and directly marked the page numbers on page 11 and page 7 in red. Greet opened page 11, and sure enough, he saw that one of the processes had been framed in bright red, and it was flashing, as if urging. Okay, Senior Sister's process must be approved as soon as possible. The sooner you approve it, the sooner you leave it to the Dragon Clan to save the headache. It would be bad if the speed was too slow and the Senior Sister rushed up to urge her. Speaking of which, the Senior Sister has been merciful and only urged the process she submitted herself. She did not rush through the processes of the entire evocation department and all the mages under her jurisdiction. So, it's better to work quickly. Gretel sighed and opened the red process, looking at it carefully from beginning to end. It can be seen that the Senior Sister's recent research and development progress has been good, and the research target has shifted from ordinary chromosome points to extraordinary chromosome points. However, during the research process, it was discovered that extraordinary chromosomes are not so easy to fragment and unfold in the gel, nor can they swim and unfold in the gel like ordinary chromosomes. Moreover, the Senior Sister discovered extraordinary chromosome points that can resonate with energy under electric current, so she came to apply for more dragon cell tissues and more extraordinary materials to conduct further research. Gretel watched attentively and sighed. Senior Sister is indeed a Senior Sister, but this research is too difficult. It's hard to say when the results will be produced. With one stroke of his pen, he approved the process. Looking at the next one, the light curtain vibrated again. Master, Archmage Bors of the Change Department, please approve his process as soon as possible. Tangling, next time the light screen should not vibrate, it will make you dizzy. In the lower left corner or the lower right corner, make an icon that flashes and blinks, and then makes a beeping sound. If you want to make a small window, remember that the length should not exceed a quarter of the screen, and the height should not exceed a quarter. Okay, Master Talling replied sweetly. Gretel just breathed a sigh of relief, and the sound of beep, 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 was heard in an instant, and it lasted as long as it would never end. And on the entire light screen, a small window pops up, and another pops up, and another, and another. Gretel only blinked twice, and the small windows stood side by side, filling the entire light curtain. Gretel! I can't live this day. It looks like the computer is infected by a virus, or is stuck due to too much information. What kind of trouble is this? Mute. Mute. Don't disturb me. You can't stack these windows and only reveal a title. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1579. Greed frowned, groaned, and worked hard 16 hours a day. In addition to sleeping and meditating, he spent all his time. Sirara began to feel very dissatisfied. After walking around in circles for 17 or 28 times, she saw that Gretel was engrossed in sitting for several hours without moving his eyes, and she began to feel distressed again. She held her breath, stood on tiptoes, and quietly activated a little bit of levitation to let herself land silently. Sneaking to the kitchen and asking for a pile of bread, meat, and vegetables, he squatted next to him. Gretel, open your mouth. Ah! A password, an action. Open your mouth, stuff it, open your mouth again, stuff it again. Seeing that Greed seemed to be choking, I got a straw, inserted it into the cup and stuffed it into his mouth. Alas, there is no way. She couldn't understand many of those processes, and she couldn't grasp the ones she understood. She couldn't approve Greed's reply, so she could only help in a small place like this. Sirara, you have to work harder. Work hard to make up lessons. At the very least, you need to be able to understand what those experimental plans are saying so that you can help Gretel make a summary. The silver dragon girl went to flutter energetically. However, Greed will not be able to enjoy this help for the time being. Making up lessons is not something that happens overnight, and making up for cutting-edge knowledge in several directions is not something that happens overnight. For a short period of time, or even for a slightly longer period of time, Gretel could only fight alone. He worked hard to approve the process. He had to carefully read the experimental plan for each experiment, compare before and after, compare other people's experimental progress and experimental applications horizontally, and send back repeated applications. It took him a full 7 or 8 days to clear his debts and start to deal with the new submission process after returning from Dragon Tomb. Stuffing the dragon soul into the dragon egg, a prerequisite for this project, Greed rubbed his forehead and frowned. No, the people in Black Crow Swamp are really good at demolishing them. This is an artificially created number of official documents. Measure the strength of the dragon soul. Measure the energy properties of the dragon soul. Measure the response of the dragon soul to the outside world, only for those dragon soul fragments that are about to fall apart and have no consciousness. Measuring various external energies and the enhancing effect on the dragon soul are mainly various energies and magic arrays that have been previously verified by the necromancy school and are beneficial to enhancing the soul. Measurement. With so many directions, can't you write them in the same application? Greed looked at the process panel, from top to bottom, densely packed with pages, and wanted to hammer the table very much. After enduring it, I endured it again, and still held my nose and commented. Well, it is still beneficial to split the same direction into many processes. At the very least, it can give the Dragon Clan an impression. We are doing research related to the Dragon Soul, and we are doing it very carefully, trying not to damage the Dragon Soul. When we introduce the Dragon Soul into the Dragon Egg, we will also be very careful. At best, if there are too many experimental applications, the Dragon Clan will gradually relax their vigilance. If there is any experiment in the future, such as dividing some relatively weak Dragon Soul fragments, they should be able to raise their hands and give it to them directly. Gretel swiped and clicked all the applications in one breath, letting out a long sigh of relief. Soon, this large number of processes were all sent to Sky Dragon City. The red dragon Angzi covered his mouth with his paws and yawned loudly. Reviewing the research projects of the Mage Tower is troublesome and boring. The important thing is that there is no reward. The legendary dragons pushed each other, and I pushed you. After a long round of shirking, a rotation list was finally arranged. There is a round of 7 days, and whoever is on duty within 7 days will approve all the projects submitted. Didn't Tana already approve a lot of them before? Why is it my turn? There are still a lot of them. And the ones Tana approved were not difficult at all. According to her, it was basically some incomprehensible research based on existing materials. There was no need to add new dragon beasts or do strange things to dragons or dragon souls. Scan the title, click agree with your eyes closed, scan the title again, click agree again with your eyes closed. It only took her less than half an hour to approve all the weird stuff. Dragon soul, dragon soul, dragon soul. Honglong Angzi also wanted to dismiss the matter casually, but he couldn't. He had to read a row of experiments related to dragon souls carefully to ensure that human magicians would not do strange things to dragon souls. Ah, it's so annoying, why should I do such a troublesome thing? Who promised to bring the dragon soul out of the dragon tomb before? Who can I find to approve? The red dragon Angzi rolled over and over in annoyance, spraying countless sparks from his nostrils. Dragons are basically lazy people. If it weren't for their own rapid advancement, they could sleep once a year and sleep for a year. By the way, go find Targaryen. He was the one who led people to get the dragon soul before. Let me ask him to go. The red dragon Angzi spread his wings, soared into the sky, and flew towards Jin Huanglong's residence. Anyway, he has just gone out on a mission, and Targaryen will not go out for the second time in a short time. He is probably sleeping at this time, so just go to the dragon's lair in Sky Dragon City to block him. He lifts up, and strives to lift up. Unlike red dragons, golden dragons like to live in very high places, overlooking the earth. The golden dragon's residence is particularly high. Taking advantage of the updrafts of the Sky Dragon City, flying to the highest point and then gliding over was the most labor-saving method. He didn't want to climb the mountain in a hurry. As it flew, the surrounding environment became darker and darker, and it had already flown into the void. Flames swirled under the wings of the red dragon Angzi, pushing him forward quickly. Suddenly, there was a loud bang above his head, the sky shattered, and the inexplicable black lines were rolled up by the hurricane and whipped down violently. Red dragon Angzi. Here we go again. Here we go again. Damn it, where is this attack? What kind of unknown creature is this? It just happened to be blocking my way. It's obviously not my turn to patrol today, why do I still have to fight like this? Complaining in his heart, he roared with all his strength, and the penetrating dragon's roar spread far away, calling out to his fellow tribesmen nearby. Then, its wings spread to their maximum, flames rose from its body. For a moment, the entire dragon was covered in armor made of flames, and crashed into those black lines. Wing beat. Claw strike. Spit. Combustion. The flames continued, forming walls of fire, nets of fire, and clouds of fire, wrapping the black lines in them. The wind helps the fire, and the fire borrows the power of the wind. As soon as those strange black lines touch the fire, they become stalemate with it, one burning with all his strength, the other swallowing with all his strength. However, the scale of this battle is really not small, and Red Dragon Angzi alone cannot stop it. He flew east and west, dashed left and right, and summoned a fire cloud covering an area of 1 square kilometer around him, but he still couldn't stop the incoming strange enemies. At this moment, there was a dragon roar, and 5 or 6 giant dragons rushed straight up and joined the battle. The attack from outside is coming again. Everyone be careful, protect yourselves and don't get hurt. Stop them, you must stop them. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1580. Monthly ticket adds 1 update. The dragon roars endlessly. The 6 newly charged legendary dragons each occupied one side. With Red Dragon Angzi as the center, a huge hexagonal net is opened. Fire, lightning, ice, acid, sound waves, force fields, and various magical powers surged across the sky. Powers that do not belong to each other, and some even conflict with each other, are exquisitely unified under the control of the legendary dragon. The layers are stacked on top of each other, forming one network after another, preventing the invasion of black stripes and storms. And in some places where the invasion was particularly fierce, the conflicting magical forces collided, exploded, collided again, and exploded again. Each explosion occurred exactly where the storm power was about to explode but had not yet exploded, or in the middle of the black stripe. Every time an explosion occurred, the violent incoming force was paused and relaxed for a moment. No. I can't stand it. It still needs to come down a little more. Descend a little lower, call more partners, and use the power of Sky Dragon City. The giant hexagonal net slowly descended. Even if the area is increased nearly 10 times, the entire sky and the cracks in the sky are still just a drop in the ocean. When the hexagonal giant net lowers slightly, you can see a hurricane wrapped in black lines, leaking out from the edge of the giant net, and sinking to the edge of Sky Dragon City. Faced with this situation, the giant dragons could only try their best to make the giant net bigger and bigger, trying to catch the leaked foreign objects. Work hard to support, and work hard to support, until the moment when the secret lock of Sky Dragon City is opened and the power is transmitted up. Everyone, please protect yourselves. Red Dragon Angzi suddenly let out a long groan, turned his head towards the base of his right wing, and breathed out a mouthful of fire. Amidst the sizzling sound, there was a twisted black shadow wrapped in fire, gradually burning up, and then gradually twisting and disappearing. However, the right wing that had been drilled by the black shadow had a crack open, blood flowed, and it instantly turned into flames. Angzi shivered in pain, and breathed another mouthful of fire on his right wing, only to see the cracks squirming and healing. These black shadows are very ferocious. You can't protect them with scales alone. You can't protect them with ordinary protective power alone. Increase the defense level. Increase the defense level. Otherwise, they will eat your flesh and gnaw your bones. New. Rest assured. The dragons roared in response. Steel Dragon Bastos even rushed in. Can you withstand it? Do you want to change positions and let me take your place? No need. I can do it myself. Your scale-breaking armor should be used to resist direct damage. The red dragon Angzi flicked his tail and rushed to the place where the energy conflict was the most intense and the explosions were densest. He is a red dragon. Proud red dragon. The most powerful branch of the dragon clan. Even the golden dragon dare not say that he can win in front of the red dragon. This kind of minor injury can't stop him from fighting at all. They support the giant net, expand the area of the giant net, and carry around the storm and black bars that overflow from the net. If more leaks out, call them back. If anyone breaks through the network, call them back. In short, no matter what, we must persist to Sky Dragon City, mobilize our whole body, and give them support. It's been a long time since I've had such a large-scale attack, requiring the use of 7 legendary dragons, and I still feel like I can't withstand it. The dragon's roar in the sky became louder and louder. Finally, a piece of colorful light shone on the hexagonal giant net supported by 7 legendary dragons. In an instant, the giant network thickened silently and began to rotate outward and expand. Coming. Coming. The mystery lock has expanded. The mystery lock has begun to provide us with energy. Red Dragon Angzi's wings softened and he almost fell straight down. At the last moment, he reacted, and the flames around him rose, supporting him to take off again. Looking around, no one seemed to notice him, let alone laugh at him. Haha. It turns out you are exhausted too. You are almost exhausted. It turns out I'm not the only one. The light of the mysterious lock skyrocketed. In the center of Sky Dragon City, the huge flower opened in layers, and every petal was filled with light. It was obvious that the energy had been activated to a very high level. The petals are slightly curled and condensed into a reflective surface similar to a concave mirror. A ray of light is emitted from the center of the concave mirror and reaches the zenith. Countless rays of light accurately shot into the hexagonal cloud network on the zenith, adding a huge amount of energy to the cloud network and stabilizing the network for a while. At the same time, dragon roars were heard one after another below, and countless giant dragons took off from their respective residences and flew towards the direction of Dragon City in the sky. In addition to the legendary dragons who have returned to their respective positions, there are also mature dragons and adult dragons, all of whom are very familiar with each other and rush to their own positions in the mystery lock, working together to guide the magical power. Although they are inevitably suspected of being treated as hard labor, their positions are considered safer than those of their seniors who fight directly. Look, a group of legendary dragons have already risen into the sky to take over the positions of those on the cloud network and go to fight. There are also a group of legendary dragons, scattered in all directions, rushing into the sky to check the progress of this invasion. Vaska folded his paws in front of him, snow waves rolled around him, and the power of wind and snow gathered quickly. It was guided, sorted out and injected into the magic circle by him, becoming part of the great mystery of Sky Dragon City. While supplying energy, he looked up at the sky, then looked down at the bottom, and then looked up at the sky. Both father and mother are in deep sleep. Although their strength is expected to be greatly improved after Shenmian wakes up, it is impossible for them to fight in this battle now. In addition to them, there are nearly 10 elders who are sleeping or taking a rest due to various reasons. I wonder what the scale of this invasion is and whether it will alert them. Even if you alarm them, no matter what, don't alarm your parents. If they survive the slumber safely and accept and digest that power, their strength can increase. If you forcefully rush out in the middle of the game, it basically means that you have to fight with injuries. Let's hope this invasion is a little smaller, a little smaller. If it is smaller, it would be best if it can be controlled within the range that 10 legendary elders can resist. However, Vaska's expectations were completely disappointed. After the 7 legendary dragons rushed to the sky and took the place of the previous batch, except for the red dragon Angzi, the other dragons did not leave, but expanded outward in a circle. They led the cloud network to expand outward again, fully doubling its diameter. Then, he wrapped it up, trapped all the invading power, and stuck it directly to the edge of the Sky Dragon City dome. No way, it takes so many elders to work together. Vaska murmured. There are 13 elders above, and there are at least the same number of legends below who are adjusting and supplying energy to the mystery lock. If you add in the elders who fly out to explore, basically, the mobility will be gone. Alas, why isn't he a legend? Even if you are not a legend, if you are closer to the legend, you can still share more power with Maisuo. The stronger their strength, the lighter the pressure on the elders. The lighter the pressure on the elders, the greater their flexibility when fighting. Sky Dragon City, Sky Dragon City's power, it would be great if it were stronger. If the power provided by the Mystic Lock is stronger, the cloud network in the sky can be pushed back directly, hiding those intruders from the sky. Vaska was mumbling and tapping the ground with his wingtips, and his eyes suddenly lit up. In the center of the huge petals of Dragon City in the sky, a thick beam of light rises straight up, connecting to the cloud network on the zenith. This beam of light is like the rhizome of a lotus, with a thin and dense middle and countless holes. In the holes, magic veins are crisscrossed, layer by layer, like a rotating knife, like a silk screen, like a violent grabbing tentacle. it is conceivable that if something tries to come down through the light beam, it will definitely be caught by these crisscrossing magic networks. Then, chop it first, then strain it, then chop it even more finely, then strain it, and try to pipe it again. In the end, these foreign invaders and the alien energy they carry will be used by Sky Dragon City's Great Maisuo for their own use, enhancing the Maisuo's defense and offensive capabilities. Very good. That's it? That's it. Vasca swung his tail, slapped the ground hard, and continued to concentrate on channeling energy. The violent wind and snow from the outside world hit him, and he removed the essentials and channeled them into stable and gentle energy, which was injected into the energy supply node of the mystery lock. During this, some energy inevitably flowed through his body, and the flow was too fast and violent, causing slight pain. Huasca didn't care, and only relied on the dragon's natural resilience to bear it. He just looked up at the light beam wholeheartedly. All right. Down. The part where the cloud network connects with the light pillar has deep black energy flowing down along the hole. It was exactly as he imagined, being chopped up, sorted out, filtered, and absorbed. The further down you go, the darker the dark black ability becomes. When it landed halfway up the light beam, the black color was so light that it was almost invisible. Very nice. The filtering, absorbing, and digesting capabilities of the light beam are still sufficient for now. He breathed a sigh of relief and spread his wings loosely, covering the ground, trying to improve the efficiency of guiding and sorting out energy. However, the elders in the sky, especially outside the dome of Sky Dragon City, who fly up to observe the enemy's situation, cannot be as relaxed as Vasca. This is just the beginning, just the beginning. What we are facing is only the vanguard of the invaders, or in other words, a very small part of the outermost force of the invaders. The scale of this invasion will be very large, and we will need to concentrate all our efforts. In the eyes of the legendary Dragon Clan, especially in the eyes of the second and third level Dragon Clan elders who fly high and far and observe from a distance, the offender is not so much a certain strong person or a certain ethnic group. It's a small world. In the distance, a huge sphere was rushing towards Sky Dragon City. The core of the sphere is dark in color, like a fireball that is about to go out. The outside is covered with a layer of ice-white light, and outwards, there is another layer of light blue light. A powerful hurricane has been stirred up at the front of the sphere, with countless black lines dancing in it, very similar to the black lines rushing in from the Dragon City dome. And around and behind the black sphere, there is a long tail, the length of which is more than 100 times the diameter of the sphere. Bright and dark, many small dots are floating in the tail. Life reaction. Strong life response. This is a small world, and it's a very strong small world. There are powerful beings in it, maybe even above legends. The scale of this small world is quite large, in terms of volume. The outer layer, the blue light layer, is about half the size of Sky Dragon City. The sound of dragon roars comes and goes. Soon, the legendary dragons who flew out of the dome to explore returned one after another, each with a stern look on their face. Sky Dragon City protrudes high in the sky, almost suspended near the world barrier. And its powerful energy can naturally attract countless outsiders to change their direction and come towards Sky Dragon City. Whether it is living things or minerals, whether it is a small world that has become cold and has lost all signs of life, or a small world where living things still exist, when you come to this world, you are more likely to turn far away and move towards the Sky Dragon City. Although because of this, Sky Dragon City has undertaken greater patrol tasks and the obligation to fight against foreign enemies, at the same time, the Dragon Clan also gets the most precious items from the outside world. But this small world is so strong, it's really strong. I hope only the innermost layer has powerful life, otherwise, we will have to rely on the world barrier. The legendary elders looked at each other. Small world invasions of this scale have only been encountered 3 times in the history of Sky Dragon City. For the first time, in the ancient times, foreign gods invaded from the sky. At that time, the Dragon Clan joined hands with the local gods to fight against the powerful enemy. Half of the local gods fell, and the Dragon Clan also paid the casualties of a demigod and several legendary third-level ones. The casualties of the second-level and first-level legendary ones were even more tragic. The second time was in ancient times, when heroes and gods walked the earth. At that time, a powerful magician appeared, and he studied magic and weaved mythical locks with the Dragon Clan. Fortunately, the small world looked very big that time, but there were not many strong people. The Dragon Clan only paid for one legendary third-level and several second-level and first-level legends to win the invasion. The third time was during the Middle Ages, when the glorious empire rose and unified the continent with overwhelming power, annihilating, sealing, and expelling all remaining gods. That time, the war was in full swing on the mainland, and the Dragon Clan was almost alone. This time, it's another big battle. Elder Batista looked up at the huge sphere that was approaching, and let out a long sigh. As an elder who is good at medical treatment, he will not go to the battlefield unless there is a critical moment, but this time, how many legends and young dragons will fall in the battle? When will Little Greet get results? Hurry up! The Dragon Clan needs more descendants. The cat is feeling a little unwell today. My palms are warm, my whole body feels warm, my oral temperature is 37.1, and my heart rate is also accelerated. I took an antigen test and luckily it was still negative. I hope the cat is fine, bless the cat to hide away, the most important thing is not to infect Dad. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 1581. Outside the world barrier, the small world flying from far away seems to be fast and slow. To put it bluntly, its vanguard has already pressed into the world barrier and begun to have an impact on the world. If the red dragon Angzi hadn't accidentally discovered it and hadn't rushed to resist it, these black bars carried by the storm would have caused a great disaster if they entered the world. To be honest, in the storm, the core part with the highest energy density, the Crimson Sphere, or in other words, the main part of the small world, is still far away from the world barrier. It's probably still some time before it really hits the barrier. 3 months. 5 months. At least, it will take 2 months, right? This small world is attracted by our main world, and its speed will become faster and faster. However, after it hits the outer layer of the world barrier and sinks in, its speed will become slower and slower. The specific time, I can't say. The large small world and the small one are completely different. The latter may be a shooting star or a meteorite, which Sky Dragon City can swallow in one gulp without even needing to burp. The former requires Sky Dragon City to respond with all its strength and be prepared for bloodshed and sacrifice. For the latter, the Dragon Clan elders are already very experienced in estimating its speed and contact time. The former has only been encountered 3 times in the history of the Dragon Clan. Each time the situation was different, so it is not easy to refer to. No matter how many months it takes, it's coming soon. Alas, this time, we don't know how big the loss will be, and we don't know how long it will take to make up for it. The key is the young dragons, the young dragons. The fertility rate has dropped too much recently. If we can have more young dragons and more dragon eggs, we old guys can feel more at ease when we go to the battlefield. Hey, when will the research results be released? Even if Greet's research yields immediate results, it won't be immediately effective enough to combat it. Not only will it lose its combat effectiveness, I'm afraid it will also lose a large amount of combat effectiveness. A female dragon that is pregnant with eggs is not allowed to move back. Not to mention that female dragons have no fighting power. Among the legendary dragon clan, female dragons account for 1/3 of the number. Moreover, when female dragons fight, they are often more ferocious than male dragons. However, dragon couples who are preparing to have children need to spend considerable energy in advance to gather energy and give energy and inheritance during the mating process. Then, during the period when the female dragon is pregnant with the eggs, she needs to provide more energy and nutrients to help the eggs grow little by little. During this period of time, it is best to fight less and fight less, lest the dragon eggs collide in the belly of the female dragon and cause harm. In addition to the time it takes for the eggs to be hatched, although the parents do not need to accompany them all the time, it is best to guard them near the eggs from time to time. Long or short, there will always be 3 to 5 years when I can't go to the battlefield. What? Are you saying that you won't let the legendary dragons and high-level mature dragons die, but let the young dragons and newly adult giant dragons that are of no great use be given birth? Come on, those little furry babies, how much potential can the children they give birth to have? The dragon clan has statistics before, whether it is because the parents are strong and the inherited power and knowledge are strong enough, or because the high-level dragon clan is richer and the children can enjoy more resources. In short, the probability of a legendary child growing to a high level and becoming a legend is much higher than the probability of success for the children of adult dragons and young dragons. Of course, you have to eat one bite at a time and do things step by step. Gretel has taken the first step in solving the infertility problem for the dragon clan, but there is still a long way to go before he can help the legendary dragon conceive the eggs and then help the young dragon hatch smoothly with just a wave of his hand. Walk. Silver Dragon Elder Batista let out a long sigh with a worried look on his face. The dragon clan fought bravely and made sacrifices, not without reward. The more you fight for the world and the more contributions you make, the more attention and love you get from the world. With this attention and love, the dragon race can become the strongest race in the world. If you are born a professional and grow up safely to adulthood, you will have what humans call 15 or 6 levels of power. As long as you work hard, practice, and have a lot of luck and wisdom, you can become a legend. Although the dragon clan suffered heavy casualties in the previous 3 wars, after each war, geniuses from all branches of the dragon clan would appear like a volcano erupting, and they would soon be able to make up for the previous gap. The premise is to win. To get through this hurdle. If the dragon clan can cope with such a huge small world on its own, I'm afraid. Do you want to lower Sky Dragon City some? In the huge flower-shaped meeting hall, the roar of the dragon echoed loudly. Strictly speaking, Sky Dragon City is a giant ship built by giant dragons. Because of its unusually large size, it is extremely attractive to things from the sky. If the Sky Dragon City is lowered further, on the one hand, the attraction to the small outside world will be weaker, making the small world come more slowly. Furthermore, being closer to the ground makes it easier to get supply and replenishment of ground energy. If it really doesn't work, if Sky Dragon City reaches the final step and crashes, it will be closer to the ground and the dragon above will be evacuated, and the possibility of safety will be greater. Let's lower it a little. Give us more time to prepare. This small world is coming too fast. No, now is not the time to land in Sky Dragon City, opposite the Elder, the Golden Dragon Targaryen said loudly. The Sky Dragon City's descent is equivalent to opening a gap in the world barrier. Once this gap opens, the invasion of the small world will rush directly to our main world. His whole body was shining with light, pale golden and white light shining freely. The energy nature of Jinhuang Dragon is in conflict with the black stripes drawn in from the outside world. Among the dragon clan, he is also the one who advocates the most determined resistance. The foundation of our dragon clan is to protect this world. We already want to retreat before we can no longer hold on, or even before the war begins. This is not what we should do. But meaningless sacrifices have no value. You see, just a little leading force at the front requires more than a dozen legendary dragons to intercept it. If that small world rushes in directly, what a price we will pay. Black Dragon Anatole said slowly. Jin Huanglong was furious. A person like you who doesn't like frontal combat and always just wants to bury himself in the swamp for sneak attacks will never be able to prepare for it. 3 months. 3 months isn't enough? Did you guys spend all your time sleeping? How can 3 months be enough? 3 months to find out the energy intensity of that small world. Even calculating its flight time is not enough. We also need to try to capture some creatures from the small world, preferably relatively powerful creatures. We need to understand the nature of their energy and determine how to fight. We also need to unite with the mystery locks of Sky Dragon City to set up a magic circle and strengthen the world's barriers. In 3 months, there are not enough magic tools to build the magic circle nodes. Screams, whines, and complaints were everywhere. If Greet were at the meeting at this time, he would probably silently complain, the dragons in this world are probably no different from the social beasts in the previous life. A big task suddenly comes. The time is tight and the task is heavy. The team taking over the task will probably be noisy. It would be even worse if the boss only handed out tasks and did not mention salary increases. Those who lie flat, those who roll around, those who are cheating, those who blame the next department, and those who silently want to quit. In a meeting, you can see all aspects of life. But here in Longzhou, it is a pity that there is no exit mechanism and no room for job hopping. You cannot be in Alibaba today and change jobs to ByteDance tomorrow. The world is only so big, and there are only so many dragons, not to mention the older dragons and legendary dragons. If you don't go to another world to play, you still feel that the energy density of Sky Dragon City is relatively high, and you can live more comfortably. Stop arguing. Vote. Emerald Dragon Tana roared loudly. Why are you arguing? If the argument continues like this, there will be no results for a month, and she still has to go down to see her daughter. Her daughter is already confirmed to be pregnant. The young female dragon is always disobedient and likes to toss around in the mountains and seas. This pregnancy was hard won. As a mother, she had to take good care of this disobedient girl. Few male dragons dare to mess with an angry female dragon, especially an angry mother. After a moment of silence, in the center of the Sky Dragon City's meeting hall, on the edge of the flower room-shaped stage, light pillars rose up one by one. White, black, high and low, arranged in parallel, like a rolled-up ring of piano keys. Are you okay? Is there anyone who hasn't expressed their opinion? If you don't express your opinion, I won't wait for you. The good news is that the cat's body temperature and heart rate have dropped, so it's probably a false alarm, but it's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Jialan 2020. Chapter 1582. White black and white. White black. If you press along these voting light beams, black keys, white keys, black keys, white keys, you can probably play a beautiful piece of music. But at this moment, no dragon cared about these things. All eyes are focused on the increasing black and white light beams. Agree. I disagree. The dragons shouted, roared, or groaned, trying to express their thoughts. The light beams lit up one after another, rising and settling. Finally, everyone rushed forward, one by one, and collided with each other. Boom! 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 The black pillar collided with the white pillar, splashing the sparkling starlight all over the place. The white pillar collided with the black pillar, splashing the deep pearl light all over the place. The black pillars and the white pillars annihilated each other, and in the end, only two lonely black pillars remained, standing in the center of the venue. There are more votes against than in favor. The motion to lower Sky Dragon City is rejected. There was cheering, roaring, and the dragon shouted, "I don't accept it, vote again, and if so-and-so hasn't come yet, it doesn't count." With a difference of only 2 votes, there is really no way to convince the public. But voting in the meeting hall of Sky Dragon City has only this advantage. The dragon that outputs power and participates in voting agrees to the contract by default. As long as the voters reach 2/3 of the total number of legendary dragons, the vote will be considered valid. Regardless of whether they participate or not, all legendary dragons are obliged to obey the results of the vote. If you are dissatisfied or protesting, you can shout verbally, but you can actually take action to fight against the voting results. There is no such thing. After roaring and arguing for a while, the legendary dragons still followed the steps and started the next topic obediently, arranging a battle sequence and preparing to take turns against the enemies coming from afar. Elder Batista closed his eyes and sighed longly. Maintaining or falling, each has its own advantages and disadvantages. Although he has spent so much time, he still does not have a pair of eyes that are wise enough to see clearly the road ahead. Although he voted against the surrender of Sky Dragon City, he did not dare to say that his choice must be correct. For this reason, I just hope that the Dragon Clan can survive this disaster safely. By the way, I have to urge little Gretel to speed up the progress. Apart from anything else, even if the fertility rate of ordinary adult dragons doubled, they would still have the confidence to fight. It was under this situation that Greet, inexplicably, received 5 or 6 waves of urgings in a row. Elder Batista, the Golden Dragon Targaryen, the Emerald Dragon Tana, the Steel Dragon Bastos, and several legendary dragons whom I was not very familiar with but had spoken to, all sent messages intensively within 1 day. Message: how is the research going? How is the research progress going? When can I help an adult dragon conceive a child? The Dragon Clan has invested so much money, it's time to see some profits. Gretel, why did you suddenly start urging? The first wave of dragon eggs just hatched not long ago. In the second and third waves, those who have been specially treated, those who have undergone chromosome enhancement, those who have had energy enhancement, or those who have undergone cell electrofusion have not been hatched yet, and they are waiting for the lottery. But there is no way, the boss is the biggest, and the sponsors who pay the most money are the biggest. The Dragon Clan urged him, so he could only urge his men. How is the research on fertilized egg enhancement technology going? No new technology has been developed yet? Are you still verifying it? Then hurry up. Don't wait around all day long. Want to do private work? Do the research commissioned by the Dragon Clan first, let's talk about it later. How many chromosomal enhancement points have been studied? Only 11? There are 27 more that are being verified. Then do it as soon as possible. Don't stick to dragon eggs, pseudo-dragons, sub-dragons, lizard eggs, all can be used for research. Stop studying the materials dragged back from the dragon tomb. Where is the chromosome enhancement device? Is the enhanced microscope available for one person? Has the gel production that senior sister requested kept up? Has the electric pool been made? Has production increased? And you guys? Have you done all the testing for dragon souls? It's been a few days. You can start trying to inject dragon eggs. Start with those low-level dragon souls that are about to be dissipated. I know you are reluctant to part with the legendary dragon souls, and I am reluctant to part with them either. Let it go, test it slowly, and inject it slowly. The magicians were driven crazy by him. Especially those magicians who have just returned from the dragon tomb, they are like mourning their concubines. So much fresh research material. So many plants, animals, and minerals that I have never seen before. So many. They have just been sorted and put into storage. Some materials are still being researched on the most suitable preservation method. How can we prevent them from losing activity and dissipating energy, and they will be taken back to do previous research. By the way, don't let me catch you using the dragon soul for other purposes. Greet roared from the top of the mage tower to the basement. After roaring in a circle, he held his head high and prepared to go to the nature order to urge him again. As soon as he reached the first floor, he suddenly turned around and came back. It can't be used to drive undead creatures, it can't be used as a puppet core, and it can't be used as a tower spirit core. It's only for special items. Except for importing dragon eggs, you can't do anything else. I will ask the dragon clan to come over and patrol. Although we have all signed a magic contract, I know that you will still use your brains and find ways to get around it. Not this time. Anyone who crosses the line will be sued directly to His Majesty the Immortal and to Nevis. He stared at them one by one menacingly. Wherever his eyes went, all the necromancers tried their best to lower their heads and avoid his glare. The Plague Lord is serious this time. We really can't do any tricks this time. There is a spell contract, there is the omnipresent surveillance of the tower spirit, and there is the inspection and supervision of the dragon clan. Even if you do something to the dragon egg, it is better than doing something to the dragon soul. However, if this method is really effective and can really make dragon eggs gain wisdom and become real dragons, then it will be great. At that time, whether it is to seize some scraps and bring them back to Nevis for experiments, or to risk a trip to the dragon tomb and get some broken dragon souls, hee hee. Greet urged him wildly, and he was indeed whipped hard on the carriage called research. The carriage started running with a rumble. Don't worry about the bumps and bumps. In short, the speed was increased. Isn't it just to guide the soul? Isn't it just to guide the soul and inject it into the body? Black Crow Swamp has accumulated rich experience in this research direction. Living soul, dead soul. Whole souls, broken souls. Inject creatures of the same kind, inject creatures of different but related kinds, inject completely unrelated creatures. Inject dead creatures, inject living creatures, inject fetuses or eggs. They've all done it. There are a lot of successful experiences and failed experiences. Greet walked to the nature order, then returned to the basement, carefully watched the operations of the necromancers, and sighed secretly. The two highest-ranking necromancers stood in the middle and kept giving orders, driving their subordinates around in circles. Pick the dragon eggs first. Don't want the ones that have just been born, and don't want the ones that are about to hatch. Choose the ones that are more than halfway through the hatching process, but not more than 3/4 of the way through. Why, teacher? Idiot. Why do you have to ask? Go back and copy the Book of Dragons 10 times. No, 20 times. The high-level necromancer on the left cursed vehemently. The black-robed mage who asked the question lowered his head, walked around half a circle, and turned to the right. The necromancer on the right side. In the last 1/4 of the dragon egg's hatching stage, if it is broken open, you will find that the baby dragon has survived, but it still needs to be carefully maintained in the environment where it was hatched. So we can judge. At this stage, the young dragon has developed consciousness and is not suitable for foreign souls to attach to it. The black-robed mage's eyes lit up as he asked the question. The necromancer who answered the question nodded. It's good to understand. The young dragons at an earlier stage are still too young and may not be able to withstand the injection of dragon soul. Of course, if the first batch of experiments fail, we have to explore further. The black-robed mage who asked the question rushed out and cast an acceleration spell on himself, apparently going to pick out dragon eggs. Before the project leader could breathe a sigh of relief, another black-robed mage rushed over holding an experimental booklet. Teacher. How to choose the strength of the dragon soul. Gretel shook his head silently. The experiment of injecting dragon soul into dragon beast eggs was of course a process submitted, and there was also a detailed experimental plan. But obviously, no matter how detailed the experimental plan is, it is never possible to detail every detail. There are many places that need to be adjusted, there are many places that need to be explored bit by bit, and there are even more places that rely on the experimenter's inspiration. Not to mention, the necromancer who drafted the experimental plan may not have thought too clearly, or maybe he has something hidden and wants to maintain his position in the experiment. Well, next time, I will ask them to write down the experimental plan in more detail. Test the mental strength of the dragon egg first, the high-level mage has quickly replied. Have you brought the brainwave tester that you cooperated with the Pandora control department? What, not brought? If not, go and ask quickly, and then ask the alchemist next door to rub one. Go. By the way, ask them to rub the brainwave tester, and remember to mention the process. The process. If you don't see the process, those guys won't make anything. Gretel shook his sweat silently. In other words, fairness and efficiency are really opposites. For fairness, efficiency must be sacrificed, and for efficiency, fairness must be sacrificed. Just like now, Black Crow Swamp needs a tester. If you rush to the next door and ask the alchemist to rub one, it might be faster. The tester is already in hand before the process is completed. However, in order to improve everyone's work efficiency and to fairly evaluate everyone's contribution, some time has to be thrown into the process. Of course, another advantage of having a process is that if the person in Black Crow Swamp does not know the alchemist or has a grudge against the alchemist, he can successfully obtain the tester instead of being simply kicked out by the alchemists. The strength of the infused soul, based on previous successful experiences, let's calculate it based on 50% to 80% of the mental strength of the dragon egg. If it doesn't work, adjust it slowly. Teacher, do you want to come and take a look at the strength of the spirit-infused magic circle? Greed had to sigh. It does make sense to have specializations in the arts. If he were to handle this project personally, he would need to start from scratch and slowly explore the strength of the soul, the choice of the target to be injected, the strength of the spiritual magic, and the timing of injecting the fetus or egg. Although it was the first time for these necromancers to experiment with dragon souls and dragon beast eggs, their previous successful experiences had given them enough reference. In this way, the experimental time they saved was more than a month, more than half a year, or even more than a year. Not to mention, the precious dragon soul cannot withstand repeated experimental failures. If you can waste less, it is always better to waste less. Select the dragon egg, weigh it, measure the energy intensity of the dragon egg, measure the mental strength of the dragon egg, and record the race and various data of the dragon egg. Debugging the magic array, selecting the appropriate type of dragon soul, measuring, cutting, and injecting. Failed. Failed again. Failed again. It still failed. The spiritual energy reading of the dragon beast egg dropped sharply, and it seemed to be dead. The necromancers have been struggling for a full month, injecting, failing, and recovering dragon souls, injecting again, failing again, and recovering dragon souls again. After at least 200 to 300 experiments, the necromancers were all exhausted and turned pale and skinny. Their original skinny appearance became even more deflated, and they finally produced 2 seemingly successful dragon eggs. I say seemingly successful because the readings of the dragon egg have indeed changed. Both the absolute energy index and the mental power index have increased significantly. The reason why we can't say has been successful is because the dragon egg still needs to go through the process of hatching. It will take at least 2 months to know whether the hatched dragon egg will have wisdom. Gretel is already quite satisfied with the speed of this experiment. After all, every necromancer has been pushed to the limit. If he continues to push, he will only be able to push a few to death, then call up the necromancers and continue working. However, as an investor, Longzhu is still quite dissatisfied with this progress. What? No results have been produced yet. I just injected the dragon soul fragments, but I don't know if it can be nourished. I don't know if it can cultivate wisdom. Can't you speed up a bit? We have given you so many resources. We need materials for materials, dragon souls for dragon souls, and dragon eggs for dragon eggs. We need giant dragons, and there are also a group of adult dragons waiting in line to help deliver the baby. Gretel's face sank little by little. He turned around and snapped his fingers, and 4 golden skeletons lined up and rushed out. Each skeleton held a column of floating saucers, carrying experimental records, and rushed to Gretel. Greet bent down slightly, picked up a stack of folio-sized and 1-foot-thick experimental records in front of him with both hands, and with a bang, rounded it up and threw it in front of the dragon. Hurry, hurry, hurry. You know how to push. If you want to speed up the speed, I have a way. You invest more. Just invest more. A new book by an author in the group, the work of Scarlet Echo. Word games, but not seriously cultivation. Elements, word game plus 2 worlds and classic of mountains and seas and folklore. A word game called Strange Path quietly appeared in the world. In that game world called Shanhaija, ancient gods, legends, evil spirits, strange beasts, creatures that existed in various folklore and anecdotes multiplied on this land. Live and hunt each other until the end of their lives. But now, the myth is reflected in reality, and Ning Pingle, who was involved in it, suddenly discovered that this game is very similar to the worldview of the ancient cookbook, the classic of mountains and seas from the previous life. But, is there any problem with the start of my game? You killed the beauty snake and unlocked the transformation spell Beauty Snake. You transform into a beautiful snake and join them. Your kinds look at you in confusion, and one of them swims towards you. Your strength attracted its attention, and it wagged its tail, thinking that you were a charming fellow, and trying to spend a pleasant night with you. Ning Pingle? 2 million words of fine old book, 17,000 haute couture, 10,000 contestants per day. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1583. More investment is needed. The Golden Dragon Thorngraf, who was stationed in the Mage Tower and was responsible for communicating with Sky Dragon City, widened his eyes. Invest, invest. I want money, gold coins, silver coins, copper coins, all kinds of gems, treasures, and precious magic materials. They have come up with so much. Although the legendary elders and mature dragons took the lion's share, in line with the principle of fairness, young dragons like them were also asked to contribute a share of the money. A piece as big as a dragon's claw was dug out of his treasure pile. A whole dragon claw. Even his younger brother, the young dragon Pierre Doran, had to hand over a piece as big as the tip of his claws from the pile of treasures he had finally accumulated. Is it easy for these young dragons to accumulate some treasure? It's too much to rob even this little bit. Moreover, since Master Nordmark was engaged, they had to give gifts. Fortunately, they used the Dragon Covenant to get through. Now, they need to invest more? Are you going to dig up their treasure again? No way. Yes. Additional investment must be made, Gretel nodded matter-of-factly. He stretched out his right hand and waved it in front of the golden dragon Thorngraf. He opened his 5 fingers one by one and then closed them one by one. You see, what is delaying time the most now is whether these dragon eggs can be hatched and what the hatching results will be like. For example, the batch of dragon eggs that were just laid recently will take 6 months. It will be hatched later. He spread out 5 fingers on his right hand, stretched out his left hand, added 1 finger, and shook them together. But if there is any way, we can know the hatching results now, so we don't have to wait so hard and can go directly to the next wave of experiments. He quickly put down his left hand, and with his right hand he curled up the 5 fingers one by one and clenched them into a fist. This saves 6 months of time. Also, if the results of the experiment can be confirmed for the batch of dragon beast eggs they are currently infusing with souls, whether it is a success or a failure, we can adjust accordingly, which will save another time. 2 months. So you are going to. Golden Dragon Thorngraf frowned and was confused. He felt that he understood what Gretel meant. However, he still had to say it himself before he could report it to Sky Dragon City. Gretel calmly spread his hands. I don't know what the Dragon Clan can come up with. However, when I was treating their eldest prince on Yangju Island, in order to verify the treatment plan, their legendary prophet personally took action twice. So, you also want our prophet to take action twice? Thorngraf pondered. Gretel shook his head and continued to spread his hands innocently. It's best to be able to predict. As for whether a prophet took action, I don't know. I don't know whether the Dragon Clan has a prophet or whether it relies on some magic props, magic circles, or the like. Of course, 2 times is definitely not enough, but I think the foundation of the Dragon Clan is stronger than that of the Elves, right? Of course. Thorngraf blurted out, and then immediately bit his tongue. No, we can't agree so quickly. This Nordmark mage will ask for money and things. If he agrees, the Dragon Clan will be extorted of many resources. However, the Dragon Clan is definitely richer than the Elves. We are individually stronger than them, we have more legends than them, and our territory is wider than them. Taken together, our strength is several times that of theirs, maybe dozens of times. This face must not be lost. Especially since Master Nordmark is half-elf, and he has elven followers around him, he must not show his poverty in front of him. But if you reveal your wealth, you will have a lot of wealth stolen from you. It's so embarrassing. Thorngraf struggled back and forth for 2 rounds, and finally gritted his teeth and decided to leave this problem to the guy who deserves the headache. He is just a messenger. No matter what the Nordmark mage wants or what the elders are willing to give, let them blend it themselves. So, how many prophecies do you need? Well, of course the more the better. Seeing Jin Long's face begin to twist, Gretel quickly changed his words. I'll submit the application. As for the application, of course he doesn't need to write it himself. Gretel returned to the Mage Tower, gathered the leaders of various disciplines together, briefly explained the situation, and then confidently decomposed the tasks. Each group submits its own requirements, how many prophecies are needed, and how much research time can be saved. How your previous research went, how many results you have achieved, the necessity of prophecy support, and the direction of future results, all must be written down. No one is missing. Each group went to write applications in a hurry. On the floor where the plasticity system is located, Archmage Metal sighed and looked at Archmage Philby, who was in high spirits, and quickly issued orders. Teacher, can you not write it down? We obviously can't get this. This prophecy technique is obviously used to predict dragon eggs. He doesn't want to write? He is already level 15, why should he waste time on this kind of paperwork? At level 10, all this kind of stuff will be left to his disciples, apprentices, and interns in the laboratory. Right, Archmage Philby lowered her face and looked at him sternly. What a great opportunity it is to take an overview and sort out the research directions and progress of the entire group, but you still refuse to write about it. What if we can get it? If you apply, maybe there will be one, but if you don't apply, there will definitely not be one. You don't understand such a simple truth. Archmage Metal went to work dejectedly. Alas, the teacher has his fate and there is nothing he can do. If the teacher turned a blind eye, he could pack up the materials and throw them back to Nevis, where his disciples would write them. However, the research on Long Island was too high-end and had to be kept secret, so he could only grit his teeth and do it. In the plastic energy department, it's the same with or without dates, so the pressure of writing an application is not that great. On the side of the necromancer department and on the side of the natural cult, they are close to jumping over each other. This application is too simple. It doesn't reflect the work we have done at all. When the Dragon Clan says, you just swipe a few times and you want us to help predict, what will you do? Take it back and change it? The writing is too complicated. Who would be happy to read it in such detail? Take it back and revise it again. The writing didn't highlight the key points. Take it back and revise it. The description of our achievements is not enough. Take it back and correct it. With only the 2 dragon eggs currently available, don't you consider the long-term demand? Change. To make 20 prophecies? It's impossible for the Dragon Clan to agree to so many. The poor necromancer in charge of writing was running back and forth, sweating profusely. One draft after another, within 3 days, the manuscript was revised 7 or 8 times. Although you can modify it on the magic crystal board provided by the Mage Tower Center, you don't have to write it by hand every time, but the feeling of having to type back draft after draft is really who knows who wrote it. 3 days later, each research group submitted its application form on time. Gretel asked Tolling to tidy it up, and asked Cyrilla to look at it again. He looked over it for the last time, and took it to find the golden dragon Thorngraf. Look, this is our need for prophecy. Please send it to Sky Dragon City for evaluation. If possible, the sooner the better. What? You all have to evaluate. Thorngraf only glanced at it, and 2 rows of thorns popped out of his ears, protruding 2 golden skin membranes. Behind the neck, golden light shines brightly, and dragon scales stand upright. 100 dragon eggs? And various other research equipment, research tools, and research methods. What do you think our Dragon Clan is? That's prophecy. It's prophecy. It's a direct journey through the river of time, looking into the future. He has also inquired in the past few days and tried hard to find his own dragon inheritance. The elders in his family and his own inheritance all gave him the same answer. The cost of activating prophecy is very high. To be a proficient prophet in this way, you need a specialized magic circle, powerful energy assistance, and it also costs your body and even your lifespan. Except for the time dragon, which has a pair of eyes that can directly see into the future and can swim in the river of time, even the legendary dragon who specializes in prophecy cannot be said to be able to use prophecy just like eating and drinking. Oh, this demand exists objectively. Greet spread his hands without any pressure. In this way, there is no need for you to be embarrassed. You can directly send this request to Sky Dragon City. How much the elders can agree to is their business. Thorngraf grumbled and went to send the message. Greedy, vampire, bone-crushing guy. You don't need to ask to know that you will definitely not pay for these prophecies. The Dragon Clan will definitely pay for it. How much does it cost to activate a prophecy? When the time comes, it will be equally divided among us again. The news from the Mage Tower indeed caused Sky Dragon City to explode once again. What, you want us to invest more? What, you want us to use prophecy? Do you know the price of prophecy? Do you know how difficult it is to hire a time dragon? Well, Elder Batista, otherwise you should go and invite Mr. Saint. For us old guys, you are the only one who has some friendship with him. What a proud race the time dragons are, how solitary they are, how they like to live in isolation. That is to say, the healer. When the time dragon was young, he could still have some relationship with him. Other dragons who were good at fighting were completely ignored. I can only give it a try. Elder Batista smiled bitterly. Saint's residence is far away and remote. Fortunately, he has not reached the level of an ancient dragon and has not moved his lair into a distant corner of time. Even so, it is still unknown whether they are willing to see him and whether they are willing to agree to him. Alas, for the sake of the entire dragon clan, it's better for him to make a trip with his old bones. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1584. The grey-white rocks spread out endlessly. The shrill wind howled against the ground, rolling up residual snow, broken ice, and rocks and ice cubes the size of soybeans, fists, and human heads. The small ones flew dozens and hundreds of meters high, while the big ones rolled close to the ground. Viewed from the air, it looks like a white curtain tens to hundreds of meters high, fluttering, trembling, and blowing forward. A snowshoe rabbit poked its head out of a hole in the ground. Unable to escape, a stoat bit its carotid artery. The ferret had just breathed a sigh of relief and was about to enjoy the delicious meal. Suddenly its ears perked up and it burrowed into the hole. The next moment, a rock as big as a man's head was rolled up by the strong wind, and hit the snow rabbit with a bang, breaking the rabbit's spine and causing his internal organs to burst out. Silver Dragon Elder Batista slowly lowered his height and sighed. It's this kind of place again. Sains has moved to this kind of place again. It's more desolate than the last time. Last time, there were intelligent races within 100 miles, and humans within 200 miles. This time, he flew 500 miles. 500 miles. Nothing. I couldn't find anyone asking for directions. If Sains hadn't given him the general area during his last visit, he wouldn't even be able to find it. The light dragon is too lonely at this time. Living so far away, you can't even find someone who stutters. Of course, time dragons may not need to hunt, they breathe time, devour time, and exist as part of time. The flesh and blood of mortal things is really not a necessity for them to survive. Signs. Where are you? He took a deep breath, and his voice traveled far away along with the violent wind and snow, hitting the steep rocks. For a moment, in the legendary dragon's eyes, the energy lines trembled slightly, and a less obvious but strange enough bend appeared. Elder Batista's eyes narrowed and he quickly flew over. Signs. I have something to ask you. The dragon clan needs your help. Come out. The cliffs trembled. Finally, in the wind and snow, a dark grey dragon head was raised, with hourglass-shaped black dragon scales surrounding his eyes like a mask. Seeing these iconic eyes that contain the power of time, Elder Batista breathed a sigh of relief. Thank God, he finally found it. He didn't have to look for it for 3 days and 3 nights, or 3 months and a half. You know, time dragons always swim in the river of time, which makes their concept of time a little different from other creatures. From the perspective of the silver dragon, time may be the rising and setting of the sun and the alternation of the 4 seasons. However, from the perspective of the time dragon, time may be flowing forward or backward, or it may turn a corner somewhere. There is one more branch. In short, it was really good luck to find him successfully this time. Batista, what are you doing here? Time Dragon Sains asked softly. His voice was hollow and ethereal, and his eyes couldn't see any focus, as if they were still immersed in the river of time. Elder Batista lowered his height to be level with his eyes. The brilliant silver dragon faced the charcoal gray dragon face to face, and the voice rumbled. Signs, I would like to ask you to go back to Dragon Island and help us make some prophecies. The dragon clan is in danger, we are in big trouble, and we need your help. Prophecy. Time Dragon Sains flapped his wings. Only the narrowest point of the triangular wings is connected to the back, and then gradually spreads out. The overall shape is like an hourglass. With this flapping, the wings closed and opened again, giving people the illusion of the hourglass of time turning upside down. Elder Batista took a step back warily. In the process of his dealings with Sanes, this time dragon did often play with the lines of time in this way, causing him to suffer big losses more than once. Fortunately, Sanes had no intention of attacking. He raised his head slightly, as if staring at something, and then lowered his head again. What's the prophecy? Just bring it. I don't want to go to a place with too many creatures, as that will interfere with my eyes staring at time. After saying this, he lowered his head again, his eyes empty again. The charcoal gray scales that were close to the flesh trembled slightly, stood up and then flattened and then stood up again. Different from the silver dragon, the time dragon's back is extremely smooth, extending smoothly from the head back. There is no towering spine, and there are no formidable thorns. It seems that you can jump into the river of time with a gentle jump anytime and anywhere. And he will really do this. Elder Batista spoke faster. The main reason is that there are many objects that need prediction. With a whoosh, a thin long tail with double spikes whipped out. Elder Batista retreated quickly, and at the last moment, narrowly escaped the attack range of the time dragon tail. No matter how fast he moved, the tip of the dragon wing was still scratched a little. Before his eyes, he watched the tip scales fade, shrink, turn gray, fall off, and disappear. Being able to cause such damage to the legendary dragon, even if the two sides were just fighting and Elder Batista did not fully defend himself, the power of the time dragon was indeed terrifying. More? What do you think I am? Sane snorted. Elder Batista smiled bitterly and sped up his speech again. The Dragon Clan has recently faced very powerful enemies and very difficult battles. We may have to make great sacrifices in the future. For this, we need more offspring and more newborns. This time, Sanes raised his head slightly and looked into the distance with his empty eyes. A spike in the shape of a corona needle extended from the back of his skull. A slight dazzling color rippled at the top of the spike, covering his entire head. Looking from a distance, the changing light and shadow almost give people an illusion, as if there is a ray of sunlight shining on the top of the spike, constantly moving, making the shadow of the corona pointer rotate in a circle above the head of the time dragon, and it seems like time is really moving. A whole day passed. After Elder Batista treated again, and finally dug out a row of dragon scales next to the wingtips, and then cast the healing spell again to make them grow back, the time dragon lowered his head and looked squarely at Elder Silver Dragon. So? What do you want me to predict? The details of this enemy? Or the victory or defeat of this war? I tell you, this is impossible, and it will cost me too much. That's not it. Elder Batista shook his tail vigorously and rolled up a vast snowstorm. We are experimenting with the breeding and hatching methods of dragon eggs. Whether the eggs can hatch and awaken, we need you to go over and take a look and give us a conclusion. You know, eggs are not convenient to move. I won't go. The time dragon shook its tail again and lay down on the cliff. Is there any earth-shattering pride of heaven that I need to see with my own eyes? I said. Don't ask me to make a prophecy if you see someone who may advance to legend. As he spoke, the lines of his body blurred, as if melting into the cliff, and as if he had completely melted into time. Elder Batista rushed forward. Hey, don't be like this. Listen to me. This recent experiment has a high chance of success. The Dragon Clan who has not been pregnant for more than 100 years has successfully become pregnant. Dragon beast eggs may also hatch into real dragons. Nonsense. The voice of time dragon Sanes is getting more and more distant and ethereal. Elder Batista was so anxious that he didn't dare to rush directly into the river of time, so he could only speed up his speech again. It's really not nonsense. That little guy named Gret Nordmark is really capable. He has healed several wounded people that I couldn't heal, and he has done many things that we can't do. What did you say? The blurred outline of the time dragon suddenly paused, as if it was suddenly stuck while immersing in the river of time. After a pause, he emerged inch by inch. What did you say? I said that little guy did a lot of things that we couldn't do. What's his name? Gretel Nordmark. Well. The outline of Time Dragon Sains is a little clearer again. Elder Batista did not dare to neglect, sorted out his thoughts, and listed the most important things that Gretel had done since he came to Dragon Island. While talking, he looked at the other person. Sains listened quietly, neither speaking nor asking questions, but the slight brilliance around him seemed to flow more quickly. After a while, he flapped his hourglass-shaped wings and raised his head. For the first time, Elder Batista's appearance was truly reflected in his empty pupils. That little guy, what else did he do? I didn't ask about his past carefully, what's wrong? Have you brought anything with him? No, why should I bring this? This little guy is a bit special. When you mentioned his name, I seemed to see the power of time turbulent and distorted. Did you bring anything related to him? Can I see him? Well, this is really not the case. Such a little guy, as a silver dragon elder, why does he collect and carry the other party's personal belongings in a good manner? It's not like he asked the other party to predict things related to the Nordmark mage. Why did he bring these things? Elder Batista thought quickly. He brought nothing with him. In terms of family relationship, he and Cyrilla are not close relatives. Although Cyrilla and Greet are engaged, they have no children and no direct blood ties. Others. That's right. This is the experiment report he submitted recently. Experiment application. Experiment record. Elder Batista swiped his dragon claw a few times, brushing things in front of him, and a stack of magic crystal cards flew out. Take it and take a look. Take a closer look. Can you find him from this location? The magic crystal card scattered a ray of light, which was then caught in the glare around the time dragon. Sains lay down silently, closed his eyes, and floated leisurely. After a while, he floated up completely, his wings spread wide. I'll go with you. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1585. Twists and Turns. Elder Batista couldn't believe his ears for a moment. Even the fate and future of the dragon clan were mentioned, but they could not move this lonely time dragon. As a result, the mention of the Nordmark mage actually interested him. Who is this Nordmark mage? He actually fell into the eyes of the time dragon. No, just a name can trigger the time dragon's induction. No matter who he is, as long as he can be invited, it will be good. Elder Yinlong reacted, quickly waved his wings, and turned on the spot. Follow me. Two giant dragons cut through the sky and threw themselves in the direction of Dragon Island. They were all legendary dragons. They flew at full speed with spell assistance and quickly returned to Sky Dragon City. Just after entering the Dragon City Mystery Lock range, shadows appeared below, and heads kept poking out. Here. Here. This way. Look east. Idiot. You can't tell the difference between east, west, and north. Forget it, just follow the direction of my finger. It's not that I don't know the direction, it's that you pointed the wrong way. Snapped. Okay, it's because he's flying too fast, okay. Elder Batista glanced down and shook his head helplessly. The time dragon has always been unique. Not only is it difficult for humans and other creatures to see it, but even ordinary dragons are considered mundane in his mouth. In addition to the legendary dragon, it is definitely known that there is this dragon species and that there is a time dragon of the same family in this world. The younger dragons, those who are from famous families, can know the appearance of the time dragon from their own inheritance. Those of lower origins, those whose ancestors have lost the legendary inheritance for 7 or 8 generations, may not even know about the race of Time Dragon. Now that a Time Dragon has arrived in Sky Dragon City, please don't push around or invite friends to come out and see what's going on. He glanced quickly to his left. Fortunately, Sains, the Time Dragon, lazily stretched his wings and floated in the air, turning a blind eye to the dragons watching below. I didn't see how he mobilized his strength. His whole body was like a charcoal black sharp arrow, shooting straight out. Starting from the head, 12 long dark black lines extend straight to the back of the body. As the Time Dragon flies, these long lines gently fluctuate, and from a distance, they look like annual rings surrounding the body. Elder Batista urged Feng Yun with all his strength, and was able to barely catch up with him. It was extremely difficult to surpass him. Leaning next to the Time Dragon, the flow of time seemed to be strange. It seemed as if they had only taken a few breaths, and as if they had traveled for several days. They had rushed to the center of Sky Dragon City, directly above the giant flower. Sensing the arrival of the 2 giant dragons, the flowers opened quickly, and the petals were filled with light, forming a path that pointed straight to the center of the flower. One after another, giant dragons poked their heads out from the gaps in the petals, from the center of the stamens, or from the cloud network in the sky, nodding to the Time Dragon. The dragon's roar shook the sky and lasted for a long time. "You're here. Elder Sains, you are finally here. Now that you are here, we will be more confident." Elder Batista looked on with a smile and said nothing. From his point of view, he naturally hopes that Sains and everyone at Sky Dragon City can meet and have a chat. Not to mention how deep the friendship is, at least everyone is familiar with each other. Next time I invite him, I don't have to do it myself. Unexpectedly, Sains suddenly paused and stopped far away from the giant petals, at least dozens of miles away. Not to mention the meeting hall, the cloud net in the sky was now lowered and could not reach him at all. The Time Dragon's eyes were still misty, and the pupils were filled with extraordinary colors, vaguely woven into an hourglass shape. He raised his head and looked at the tumbling cloud network in the distance, as if he wanted to see through the cloud network the invading small world further away and the violent crisis behind the small world. After a while, he lowered his head again and stared at the petal-shaped building for a long time. "Has it passed?" Elder Batista stared at him breathlessly, not daring to disturb him. Finally, seeing the Time Dragon move, he withdrew his gaze. The reflections of Dragon City and Yunwang appeared in his pupils, and asked quickly. Sains shook his head. "It won't pass." "What?" "I saw no sign of time distortion." "The human being you are talking about is called Gretel Nordmark, right? Where is he?" "You have been watching for a long time just now, watching the flow of time." Elder Batista sweated profusely. "But these high-ranking dragon species who are born to be legendary, the Time Dragon, the Rainbow Dragon, the Power Dragon, all have some magical powers, and the Time Dragon is especially powerful." He couldn't say anything more, so he quickly showed the way. Down below, on Dragon Island, in Andre and Cynthia's territory, we authorized him to build a mage tower for research. "I will take you there." As he spoke, he changed direction, bundled his wings, and rushed straight down. Time Dragon Sains followed him slowly, as if he was gliding leisurely on the air current he split. On the Sky Dragon City, the elders cooperated to open the corner of the mystery lock, and a beam of light enveloped the 2 giant dragons, speeding downwards and heading straight for the Mage Tower. In the Mage Tower, Gretel is running between various research groups. Especially here in Black Crow Swamp, he is very interested in the project of injecting foreign souls into dragon eggs. He feels that this is a possible breakthrough point and wants to follow up and learn from the whole process. In particular, Gretel intuitively had a certain connection between the 2 projects of allowing the young dragon to awaken its wisdom smoothly, and taking over the dragon soul with the dragon egg to become a real dragon, and it was a very strong connection. However, it is not that easy to follow the whole process. Necromancers have accumulated too much and rich experience in playing with souls, playing with dead souls and living souls, and playing with the splicing of soul and body. Greed wants to follow up on this project, and there are too many knowledge points to supplement. Your Excellency, Lord of the Plague, do you want to understand the relationship between soul strength and body? Fortunately, Black Crow Swamp did not hide any secrets from him. Not only did they not hide their secrets, the two leaders were extremely attentive around him. This is easy. You first read the book's general introduction to the soul, dead souls and living things, floating spirit bodies, and spirit and flesh, and then read the Golden Book and the Secret Door. And then read these papers. Can you please stop calling me the Lord of Plague? Gretel was called by them and the hair on his back stood up. Especially, don't call me Your Excellency. That is the exclusive title of the legendary mage. You two are 2 levels higher than me, can you not use this title? Okay, then you can take a look at it first. We have asked Tailing to bring out these books and papers. You can read them at any time. After reading, you will need to perform some measurement and transfer work, and we will guide you. Greed left the basement as if fleeing. Taking a breath, he was thinking about whether to go to the Natural God Church to see the progress of the experiment and calm his mind, or to go back to the study to read. Suddenly, a huge pressure enveloped him, making his heart beat fast. Warning. A strange and powerful person of legendary level is approaching. Warning. A strange and powerful person of legendary level is approaching. Warning. A strange and powerful person of legendary level is approaching. The tower spirit screamed and called the police. While shouting, there was a sharp sound of diddy-diddy-dip. At the same time, the light flashed on the wall, all the fluorescent green lines lit up, and the defensive array quickly entered the charging state. As long as the defense is fully activated, even a legend, even a dragon legend, under the command of a half-step legendary magician, can withstand it for several hours or a day or two. Greed ran towards the center of the mage tower. The central elevator had already opened an opening for him. As soon as he stood on it, he immediately closed it and ascended rapidly. What? Speed. An overload of 3G is not dangerous at all to Gretel's current physique. Gretel ran towards the control center. Archmage Philby dropped what she was doing and ran to the top of the mage tower, preparing to assist Gretel. This is Dragon Island, and there is a high probability that the troops coming here are friendly forces. However, 100 times is not too much to improve defense. If you miss it once, the damage caused will be unforgettable. The plasticity system, the transformation system, the conjuration system, and the necromancy system, each magician stopped what they were doing and looked up. Strange legend. Which giant dragon is coming? Since the establishment of the Mage Tower, at least 5 or 6 legendary dragons have visited it. Of course, they will basically be accompanied by familiar dragons. This time, who is coming? What's going on? At the center of the Mage Tower, the tower spirit projects a huge light curtain. In the center of the light curtain, the Mage Tower is just a very small vertical line, which is almost invisible. In the light curtain that expanded to the edge of the hall, 2 huge bright spots were flying down quickly. The light is so bright that it can make people close their eyes at a glance. The light blue hemispherical light curtains are layered layer by layer, with the Mage Tower as the center, and are divided into nearly 30 layers from the inside to the outside. In just a blink of an eye, the 2 bright spots passed through a layer of light curtain, and soon there was another layer, and another layer, and another layer. Shape and physical characteristics: Silver Dragon. Energy level: Legend. Energy characteristics: Elder Batista. The tower spirit informed again. Gretel breathed a sigh of relief. This elder is a legendary 3rd level person with sufficient strength and has always been kind to him. Since he brought another legend over, it should be no problem. He walked to the window, held onto the window frame, and looked up. In the distant sky, two light spots quickly approached and grew in size. Elder Batista's voice soon rang out. Mage Nordmark. We are coming. The prophet I invited for you has arrived. Come out quickly to greet him. Ah, great. Greet held the window frame with his hand, jumped out, and glided to the ground with the wind. Just as he stood still, the dark grey dragon that was still far away suddenly disappeared and stood in front of him in an instant, its huge dragon head almost touching him. Gretel subconsciously leaned up, and suddenly, a strong force came and pushed him directly backward, far behind the mage tower. Elder Batista's somewhat angry voice followed. Signs. Calm down. Don't make him older with your power of time. I'm getting really old, and little girl Cyrilla is going to pull out my beard.